Hello scholars, Miss Jane's here, and I'm here to help you with your first grade skills lessons. Today we're on Unit 4, Lesson 24. Our objectives are to read some two-syllable compound words, identify past, present, and future tense, and then we're going to use a checklist to edit and write the final copy of our informational text about our critters. Let's look at some two-syllable words. Now remember, when we have a two-syllable word, we want to read the first part, the second part, and then put it together. So we're chunking it. We're reading the first chunk, the second chunk, and then putting the whole thing together. Let's do this one together. Ready? Ing. Sledding. So you read the first chunk and then the second chunk, then put those two together to read the word. When you're writing these words, you don't need this little dot here. That's just to show you for now where the chunks are. That won't always be there. Let's look at another word. Ing. Nodding. Orn. Popcorn. Hornet. Now, don't forget, when you see two of the same letter, you only hear it once. So there's two T's here, just like a couple of words back, there were two D's. We only have to say that letter one time. It. Bitter. Carpet. Backyard. Sunset. Sunrise. Good practice. Keep on practicing chunking those words. If you see that the first part of a word is something that you know, then you can probably chunk it together and read it in parts. Let's look at some past, present, and future tense. I'm going to read you a phrase, and I want you to tell me, is it past, present, or future tense? Remember, when we're talking about past tense, we're going to use those past tense verbs with the ed at the end. When we're talking about future tense, we'll use the word will to show that we haven't done it yet. Listen carefully and then tell me, is it past, present, or future tense? The first phrase is, Jill will watch a movie tomorrow. Future. Good. Lee skipped around the playground. Past. Good, because it says skipped. Beth will play games with her friends. Future, because it said Beth will. Juanita walked to the store. Past, she walked to the store. The dog barked at the neighbors. Past, the dog barked. She scratched her back. Good, past. scratched. She already did it. I will drive to the airport tomorrow. Future, I will. Yesterday, I started a good book. Past, because we said I started. It already happened. Great job. You guys are doing fantastic. Identifying the past, present, and future tense. Remember those little things that will help you, like the word will shows that it's future tense. And if you have that ed, those three different sounds, d, id, and t at the end, then it might be past tense. Next, we're going to look at our checklist to publish our writing. So we're going to edit that writing you guys did about a critter. And then you're going to rewrite it in your best handwriting so that it's like a story that you wrote. Go ahead and take out your writing that you've already completed. And then we're going to look at page 24.1 in our book to do some editing. This is the checklist you're going to use to edit your writing. This checklist has different steps that you can take to make sure that your draft is ready for its final copy. This just helps make your writing look better. You're going to look at the page you completed yesterday or last time, 23.1, and you're going to use this checklist. Normally we would have a partner if we're in school to help us, but since we don't have partners at home, you're going to use the checklist to edit your own writing today. So first you want to read your draft. So read what you wrote on page 23.1. Then look at this checklist. So number 1 says check that the name of the critter is there. So look at your page. Is the name of your critter on your paper? If it is, you can put a check mark in this box. Then look at number 2, or the second item. Check that you described what it looks like. So make sure that you wrote what that animal looks like. If you did, then you can put a check mark in this box. If you didn't, you might want to go back to your planning sheet and see what you wrote about that. Next, check that you described its home. So if you described the home of your animal in your writing, you can put a check mark in that box as well. Next, check that you described the food it eats. If you described what food your critter eats, you can put a check in that box. Next, you want to check that you listed a fun fact. Make sure that you said something about your animal besides what we asked you to put in there. A fun fact that you learned from your stories. So remember, all of this information is coming right from the book that we read, those stories that we've read over the past few weeks. And you can find a little fun fact in there. Check that off once you're sure that you have a fun fact. And then next, I want you to make sure you have a different colored pen or something, a crayon that's a different color, something that you can use to edit your letters. So your actual writing so that you can see what you need to fix. So in order to do this, you're going to go through and check that you have capital letters where they're supposed to be, lowercase letters where they're supposed to be, and punctuation. So use your different colored pen or your different colored crayon to check your work. If you missed a capital letter, use your different color to change it to a capital letter. Remember, capital letters belong at the beginning of sentences or if it's the name of something. So if you use the word shark, that's not the name of a shark. That's just the type of animal. So you don't need to capitalize that unless it's at the beginning of your sentence. All of the other letters should be lowercase letters. Make sure you didn't put any capital letters in the middle of a word where they don't belong. If you did, fix that now. Then check for punctuation, question marks, periods, and exclamation points. You don't need to have all three. If you have just periods, that's okay. Whatever punctuation you need to have. Make sure the end of every sentence has a punctuation mark. Once you've checked all of your letters, your capital, your lowercase, and your punctuation, and you're sure that it's perfect, you can give yourself a check mark in that box. That part might take a little bit of time, so you might need to pause and go through before you move on to the next step. Your last step is to check that words are spelled correctly. Now, you can go back and look at the story to check that words are spelled correctly, or if it's a different word that you aren't sure about, it's not something that you have used before, you can ask a parent to help you to make sure that it's spelled correctly. I know you don't have all of your tricky words at home. We don't have our tricky word wall at home, so you can use your parents as a resource to help you there. If there's any that you need to fix, you can use that different colored pencil to write it, or you can erase and put it there too. Those are all of your steps for editing your draft. So we're still looking at our draft right now. Then we're going to make that into a final copy. So once you finish this whole checklist, you've checked off every single thing, you're good to go, then you're going to rewrite it. So you're going to get a brand new sheet of paper and you're going to write all of your sentences nice and neat on that piece of paper. So you'll start with your title on top, the name of your animal. For example, the name of my animal was Trout. So for my title, I'm going to put a capital T and then the rest of the letters will be lowercase. But then when I'm writing my sentences, I'm not going to write Trout capital unless it's at the beginning of a sentence. So write the name of your critter or your animal. The first letter will be capital in your title. And then your first sentence should say, I will describe a, and then whatever your animal is. Then copy all of the words you wrote on your planning page from 23.1. You're just going to copy your sentences because you already edited them and made sure that they had all of their capital letters, their lowercase letters, and their punctuation. You're just copying it right over. When you're finished with all of that, you've already had your final copy. So if you want to, you could also draw a picture to go along with this story. You could draw a picture of the critter that you were writing about, if you would like to. That is the last step of our writing process. We planned, we made a draft, and we edited so that we can have our final copy. You guys did so great on this. And I think next time you'll do even better since we already know how to write. Great work today. That is all I've got for you. See you tomorrow.